Hello friend, welcome once again. In this video, I will discuss the SRF 2025 a question paper in third part, that is our basic core group food science part. So the first question is, auto tetraploid apple passes the better salt tolerant than the diploid cultivars. Yes, as we know, the autotetraploid basically developed for the root stock breeding in the case of citrus, apple, and other crops also. This having the more potential to develop the salt as well as the another stress tolerant like temperature and other things. A region is it may be associated with the higher level of expression of the equiporin genes that that is these two genes is responsible to the salt stress. Yes, this tetraploid root having the equiporin gene that is responsible for the salt tolerant. So the both A and R is the correct and region is the correct spelling to A. Students, sometimes what happened, we did not read the option the very carefully. Here they are given the not in the first, means A and R are true, but R is not correct explaining. And most in the case, the B option where the R is correct explaining in the place of the first. Therefore, I am also getting confused in the exam time. So I will take the first option, but unfortunately, it will uh, not true because they are change the position of first and second option. So so I will suggest you read the very carefully before the taking the answer. Second is the arrange the temperate food crop according to the month of harvest under the Indian condition, January to late September. So they are took there in the basically four temperate foods. So we need to arrange the harvesting time from the early to late. So the cherry, the first crop, first temperate crop which give the fruit and ripe up to 15 April to last April and May. Second is the apricot, which become ripe in the last week of April and up to May and June. Third is the plum. It will also ripe if after just after the apricot, and in the May and June is the peak time, and apple is the latest temperate food according to in this option, and which become ripe up to September and October month. So you will arrange accordingly. Another question is they giving the some genes which are the knocked down by the using the CRISPR Cas9 and their related trait. So they are assigned to you match. So LCYE gene is responsible for the enhance the beta carotene content. CSLOB1 is the responsible for the citrus canker resistant, and MAMADS36 is responsible for the shelf life, and FAMYB10 gene is responsible for the anthocyanin biosynthesis. Here you if you knowing the only if at least you 2 to 3 genes, you easily solve the question. I am also knowing the LCY gene and CSLOB1 gene, but unfortunately I get confused in that time, so I took the wrong answer, but you match accordingly. Another question is, which of the following sector is considered as the source of cytoplasmic male sterility? So here the blood orange is the male not a male style. Ruby red grapefruit, it is also not a male style. Satsuma mandin. Here the Satsuma mandin and Satsuma mandin is the male style, and another is the novel orange. Washington novel orange is also male style in the case of citrus, and Dancy mandin is again the male fertile. Tea stage is the considered maturity indices of which of the following crops? This is a very simple and repeated question related to apple. Another is the most of the walnut cultivars are protogynous, but few are the protandrous. No, most of the walnut variety are protandrous and only few is the protogynous. So first is the wrong. Second is the walnut cultivars are self-fertile, but some degree of self-unfruitfulness is due to dichogamy. Yes, it is correct. So here the first statement is wrong and second is the correct. Another is the which of the following Garcinia species is source of the yellow latex that is utilized as a dye. So Garcinia hamburai is the source of the yellow latex. They took this question from the TK Boss book. Botanically, the inflorescence are male plant in papaya. This is very simple question, and that is the panicle. Which of the following statement are not true for the Bartlett pear? So the Bartlett pear has the wider adaptability. Yes, it is true. Suited for the desired drying and canning purpose. Yes, it is also true. Highly precocious and dwarf. The basically Bartlett is not most dwarf, but it is relatively dwarf. Another is the highly resistant to fire blight. No, it is not resistant to fire blight. So the D option is correct. Here the it is not resistant to fire blight. Another question is that the main pigment responsible for the color of blueberry is the anthocyanin. In last year, they asked the same question, and they asked the which anthocyanin is responsible for the color in the case of the blueberry. So the answer is the malvidin 3 glucoside. But in this year they getting the more easy because they are asking uh, only the responsible for the which pigment, so anthocyanin, and which anthocyanin is the malvidin 3 glucoside. Another is this is a very conceptual types of question because there are several groups in the case of cherry and another fruit where the self incompatibility is the prominent. But if you are knowing the two to three at least the major variety, then you easily solve the question. Here I have also knowing the only two variety, and based on these two variety I solve very easily this question. So the universal variety, that is the zero group, as you know, the Stella, Vista, Vega, Silica, all these are the universal Lorer variety. Another is the S3 and S4 Lambert, because this is the earlier time they are repeated question asked several times. So S3 and S4 I also remember. That is related to Lambert. Another is the S1 and S3 the black heart, and S1 and S2 is the early rivers. So you try to mug up at least the major variety which are commercially grown like the black heart, Stella, early rivers, Lambert, and another the universal donor types. Another question is recently USDA Indio released the citrus root stock US Galache after 60 years of the continuous research. What is the positive trait by by the US Galache? So this is a very current types of question they took from the research paper. So if you are read it, then it easily solve. The special character of this is ultra dwarf. No, it is not a dwarf type. Salt tolerant. Yes, it is the salt tolerant. Citrus prestige resistant. Yes. Graft comfortable and important good quality for the cyan. Yes. All these traits are related to the US Galage except the ultra dwarf. Another is the arrange the following fruit crops according to their time taken from flowering to fruit maturity, from lowest to highest. So here the lychee, as you know, the lychee took only 60 days for the maturity. After that, the pomegranate which took the 150 to 180 day. Another is the sweet orange which took the 6 to 9 months for ripening, and last in the bale which took the 9 to 12 months and most probably 11 months. The term breva cropping associated with the fig, very simple question. Arrange the grape variety according to the release from the past to present. As I suggest every time to the student, you at least mug up the whatever variety which are released from the IRI their release year. Here they are asked the as you know, this is a very simple because the most of the option whatever they kept here are simply related to which are you mostly knowing, because the Pusa seedless is the earliest types which are the first variety released from the IRI. And after that the Pusa Naurang in 1996, and then the Pusa Swarnika, and in the latest variety which is released from the IRI, the Pusa Purple Seedless, which is an extra early variety is developed by using the embryo rescue techniques by crossing the seedless into seedless parent. Another question is the using the cobalt chloride and ethylene synthesis inhibitor could not ameliorate the wilt affected guava plants. So this is a false, because the guava wilt is not due to the ethylene stress. Of course, the ethylene is synthesized under the stress condition, but it is not a prominent one. Basically, the guava wilt is due to the fusarium and salt stress, not the related to ethylene. So the first option is the wrong. Second is the fusarium mangiferi augment the stress ethylene and cyanide derivative from the ethylene biosynthesis cause necrosis and death of the malformed cell in the mango. Yes, it is a correct. In the case of mango malformation, this is the latest research which are the confirmed that the stress ethylene which are produced under the fusarium infection, low temperature stresses, and another infection like the mite and other things, which are produce the stress ethylene. And in the condition of stress ethylene, if you see the ethylene synthesis pathway, in the last step the cyanide SCN is also produced, and these SCN are the cause the death of the malformed cell, because this is the cyanide containing compound which block the respiratory pathway. And in the case of mango, there is the one enzyme, that is the beta case. In the excess ethylene content, these beta case is the inactivated, that is responsible for, basically this enzyme responsible for the conversion or hydrolysis of the that SCN. And if the beta case is inactivated, then the SCN is not hydrolyzed and directly block the respiratory pathway and ultimately the cell death. So the second statement is the correct and first is the wrong. These types of question, if your concept is clear, then you easily solve these types of questions. So read the basically standard books, then you have the conceptual things, and you have the power to solve these types of question. What is the ploidy level of the CDM guinense guava? It is a tetraploid. This time these types of ploidy level basically guava you get easily get in the Kavi book. Which of the following station plant is screened using the mannitol and polyethylene? In so the drought stress, under the drought stress, mannitol and polyethylene used to screen out the stresses genotypes which are the capable to tolerant. Another, this is a very repeated question, because in the QCAV4 they asked this question in the last year, SRF 2024. So the QCAV4 is basically tropical race 4 fusarium wilt resistant banana variety, which are the developed by using the genetic modified will transfer the gene from the Musa acuminata species malassiensis to the cultivated dwarf Cavendish variety. So it is belong to third option, Musa acuminata species malassiensis. Second is the vitamin A super banana, that having the PSY2A gene and PSY1A gene, which took from the Asupina banana, that is also called as pea banana. Cold hardy is related to blue banana. Blue banana is having the unique character, that is the blue skin and pulp, which having the unique flavor like vanilla ice cream. It is basically cold tolerant. Cold tolerant in also used as a breeding for donor, as a donor for the cold tolerant, and also cultivated in the area where the banana is not possible to commercialize because the cold stresses. Another is the drought hardy. As we know, the Musa bulbiciana, especially BB genome, is responsible for the drought hardiness in the case of banana. So this is a very simple question and repeated types. Another is the which of the following acid is most abundant during the fruit harvesting of persimmon. So the answer is the fumaric acid. They took this question from the TK Boss book. So you read from these types of questions from this book. The lumpy and racy tissue of the physiological disorder of the which of the following crop. This is a very simple and repeated question and belong to mango crops. Another is the which of the following fruit crop belong to the walnut family. So pecan nut and hickory belong to walnut family. Another is the hazelnut which belong to Betuliaceae family, and chestnut having the Fagaceae family. What is the inheritance pattern of the bitterness in almond? So this is a repeated and simple type question. The bitterness in almond is governed by the recessive gene. Another is the which of the following belong to cup bearing tree family. This is the new types of question for me also related to chestnut. I will search this after the exam in the Google Baba. Another is the which enzyme helps to hydrolyze the benzaldehyde and cyanide from the glucoside amygdalin and is responsible for the almond bitterness. Here, if you see the option am- amylase, protease, lipase, these are the basically the fat related enzyme which is responsible for the fat and oil degradation. But the emulsin, which is a unique among the all these four options. So the emulsin is responsible for the hydrolyze the benzaldehyde and cyanide from the glucoside amygdalin, which is responsible for the almond bitterness. Basically, emulsin is responsible for the hydrolyze of the phenolic and secondary metabolites product. What is the causal agent for the pitch leaf curl disease? This is a very simple and repeated type question. Pitch leaf curl is due to the fungi, that is the Taphrina deformans. Another is the babaco papaya, botanically known as Vasconcelia pentagona. This is a parthenocarpic types of banana developed by the hybridization techniques. Another is the red bud stage is important stage for the inflorescence develop of which of the following crop. This is related to pineapple. Simple and repeated question. Pineapple growers use the ethyphan in a mixture with urea and sodium carbonate to induce the uniform flowering in pineapple. Yes, yes, you are always knowing the even the handbook also given the concentration of ethyphan with the urea and sodium carbonate as the different concentration with the different growing cycle and different stage how you can apply. And now where the region is explaining the degradation of ethyphan is enhanced when the pH of sodium is higher than 4. Solution is higher than 4 within the alkaline range. Thus, efficiency of ethyphan is increased. Is here basically they are said that if you are apply the ethyphan alone, this is not degrade because the ethyphan is stable under the acidic condition if the pH is lower than 4. So therefore we use the sodium carbonate or the urea to increase the pH, which increase the efficiency of the ethyphan degradation. So here the region is the correct explanation of A, and both A and R are correct. So the first option is correct. They took this question from the research paper, and also you get these types of question in the KIB book. Another is the which of the following phonics species considered stemless. So the phonics equivalent. This is a simple type question. You get easily in the competitive book and also in the TK Boss book. Another is the for control of the greening disease, citrus sala should be kept under the control by contact insecticide. If you see the citrus sala nature of the infection, so citrus sala is the belong to the piercing types of insect. And if you knowing the basic concept, the piercing types of insect is not managed by the contact insecticide. We need to the spray the systematic insecticide. This is the basically theoretical way. but especially if you are dealing with these types of pest, we you need to spray the both contact as well as the systematic insecticide for the effective management, but the systematic insecticide is the most way to use the piercing types of insect management. And citrusella act as a vector for greening disease. Yes, here the R is the correct, but A is the wrong. Another is the which of the following sigmoid growth curve followed in pomegranate. So the pomegranate having the single sigmoid growth. This is a very simple question. Yeah, another is the very current types of question. Muscat Hamburg recently earned the GI tag as Kambam grape. Basically, in the Tamil Nadu, the Muscat Hamburg is also known as Kambam grape. Which of the following region recognize the GI tag for the growing the Kambam grapes? So the Theni district of Tamil Nadu got the GI tag for this specific variety, that is the Muscat Hamburg known as the Kambam grapes. So this is a recent types of question. If you are covering the recent and updated things, then you easily solve these types of question. Which of the following not true for avocado? This is also simple question. Arca supreme flowering behavior fall to B group? No. Arca supreme having the A types of flower, and Arca kurgravi is these two variety released from the IHR. So the Arca supreme having the A type flower and Arca kurgravi having the B type flower. The Mexican race has the highest oil content. Yes, it is true. The Guatemalan races has the highest salinity tolerance. No, the West Indian types are having the high salinity tolerance. The West Indian race takes the maximum time from the bloom to maturity. No, this is also correct because the Guatemalan race took the maximum time to bloom to maturity. So here the first is wrong, C and D is also wrong. So the answer is the fourth one. A, C, D is the wrong. Only here the B is correct. Another is the star ruby, a mutant grapefruit derived from the which variety? In the case of grapefruit, if you are knowing the stepwise step for all the mutant variety which are came from the which variety, then you easily solve. Like the star ruby is mutant from the Hudson from faster from the Welters. This is the one series. Another is the flame seedless from the Henderson from the ruby red from the Thompson from the Mars. This is the another series, and some another variety like the Burgundy red blues, which from the Thompsons, Rio red from the ruby red from the Thompson. So like that, you easily memorize the all variety which are the basically in the case of the grapefruit. Most of variety are the spontaneous mutation. So you write this by step which are arises from the which variety, so easily you remember the things. Which of the mutagen was used for development of a new parlet variety of grape? This is a simple and repeated question type, even the multiple time repeated. X-ray used for the development of new parlet variety. Another is the which of the following are associated with the papaya. So here the catfish. Catfish is the desired papaya, also known as carpilodi. Basically, the deformed fruit is produced due to the low temperature and also high nitrogen application, high humidity. Fruit fasciation is related to pineapple. Bumpy fruit is related to papaya, yes, due to the boron deficiency. And rind pitting is the citrus disorder due to the chilling injury, especially in Satsuma mountain. Which of the following trait true for the onyx orange? This is also repeated question in 2024. They are asking the onyx is the unique types of uh, sweet orange released from the which country, and now this year they asked there the character. So they took the option like the high salt tolerant. Yes, it having the high salt tolerant, high anthocyanin. Yes, outstanding post harvest life. Outstanding post harvest life. Yes, it having the high post harvest life and ultra dwarf. No, it is not ultra dwarf, and also yes, it is not a salt tolerant, though this is basically cultivated types, so having the high anthocyanin and outstanding post harvest life. So the B and C is the correct. Another is the simple question. They are to the crops and their disorder and need to match. So the papaya is the bumpy damping up. Citrus is the dieback. Mango red rust and apple is the scrape. Another is the tendril forms panicle in the grapes. Yes, if you knowing the anatomical structure of the grapes, so the tendril and panicles arise from the same types of bud, which can be changed according to their composition. Tendril of the grapes also arises from the enlagan and experimentally gets converted into the panicle using the synthetic cytokinin. Yes, in the case of grapes, both the panicle and tendril are arises from the same buds, and if you are applied the cytokinin in the buds, which actually the going to initiate the tendril, if you apply the cytokinin which convert to the panicle instead of the tendril. So the both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of the A. Another is the ball skin versus bladder theory. This is a very too much repeated question related to the lychee. Sorry, lychee. Another is the mass mera is the clonally selected from which of the following pineapple genotype. This is from the Singapore Spanish. These types of question usually get the competitive book as well as the TK Boss book. Another is the which of the following statement is not correct about the bitterness in the citrus fruit. Okay, delayed bitterness is the major limitation to use of the novel orange for processing. Yes, if you store the juice of the novel orange, it becomes the more bitterest. Naringin causes the delayed bitterness in the citrus juice. No, it is not true, because the naringin is responsible for the instant bitterness, which remain unchanged with the storage. Means the the naringin is responsible for the immediate bitterness, not the delayed bitterness. So this is not true. And limonene cause the delayed bitterness. Yes, limonene will increase after the storing of the juice. So this is correct. The cause of delayed bitterness in the conversion of non-bitter precursor to the bitter form after the extraction of juice. Yes, it is also correct. So here the second option is true, because they are asking not correct. So the naringin is not responsible for the delayed bitterness. Another is the which of the following Mangifera species has the labyrinthine seed. This is a very easy and very repeated types of question. That is the Mangifera gedebe, only single species which having the labyrinthine types of seed. Another is the banana genotypes and their genomic constitution. So grass macle is the triple A type. Pisang liling is the double A types. This is basically diploid group having the male and female fertile in nature used in the breeding program. Goldfinger is the tetraploid related to genomic constitution is triple A B, and Saba is the triple B. Saba and Cardava belong to the triple B group, predominantly Balbisiana group. Which of the fruit crop follow the biennial growing cycle and associated with the terms primocane and floricane? So the primocane and floricane basically related to the raspberry, which is knowing the fruiting which occur in the autumn season. Though so the those bearing which produce in the autumn season is called as primocone. It is basically governed by recessive gene, and the tipping is used to overcome this problem. So here the raspberry is the answer. Fusariosis is the major disease of which fruit crops? This is a simple question related to the pineapple. You get this question is easily in the TK box book and also in the fruit books. Apricot seedlings are susceptible for the asphyxia caused by the waterlogging, while the myrabalan is resistant. Yes, this is true. This disorder is due to waterlogging, and you know the myrabalan is the resistant to waterlogging. And second is that the sand cherry produced a taller tree when it was used as the root stock for apricot. No, sand cherry is also known as dwarf cherry. Their scientific name is Prunus pumila, which is basically responsible for the dwarfness and also used in the breeding for the dwarfness as a source. So the second is wrong and first is the correct only. This is also very simple question related to the Persimmon, PCNA, pollination constant, non-astringent, which is also in the case of those pineapple which are the pollination constant is called as perfect Persimmon, and those which are the non-astringent are called imperfect. So here the pollination constant, non-astringent cultivars are imperfect sweet persimmon. No, pollination constant non-astringent is the perfect sweet persimmon. Second is the pollination variant. If variant is used, so it is the imperfect. Here they are given the perfect. So this is also wrong because the PVNA is the imperfect sweet persimmon. See the PCA, pollination constant astringent are the perfect astringent persimmon, and PVA is the imperfect astringent persimmon. So they are asking the not true. So A and B, because the if you put the vice versa, then it will only correct. Another is, and is the last question, which of the following is an example of translocatable incompatibility? So the peer grafted and Queen's root stock is the uh, example of the pear grafted on Queen's root stock and mandarin budded on the rough lemon root stock and apple grafted on Bacata root stock is the example of localized types of incompatibility, and here the health early pitch on the myrabalan is the example of the translocatable incompatibility. So you easily knowing the example of the localized and translocatable incompatibility. So these are for the SRF 2025 question paper. In the C part, basically the whatever question they are asking, mostly repeated types and simple types. Only few question, 4 to 5 question are standard, which they took from the research paper as well as the standard books. So it is my suggestion you read the thoroughly the all standard books and try to conceptualize your things. So if your concept is clear, then easily you solve the question, and most of the question you easily get than the fruit books which are written by Dr. Kripa Shankar sir as well as with me also. So I will suggest you read the fruit books also, so you easily solve these types of question, and most of the probability you also get the another standard types of question because we are thoroughly compiled the basically standard as well as the normal question from the different sources as well as the previous PYQ question paper, as well as also I will add the some practice sets which will help you for the memorize the things. So that's all for today. Thank you.